I'm at Glacier Memorial Garden Cemetery just north of the church, and I'm here to talk to you this morning about the fact that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. On Sunday morning, when they arrived at the tomb, it was empty, and his body was not there. And I thought, you know what, let me do this in a cemetery because a cemetery for people speaks of death and the end game and the final judgment, and life is over. But that's not the way it is for followers of Jesus Christ. Because when we die in Jesus, that's when we really live. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. It's just the beginning of all eternity with him. I was looking at the grave markers of the Woollards, Ruth and Marvin Woolard, parents of our own Butch Woolard. They invested many years of their life in our church family called Christian Center. Much of what our church is today is because of folks like the Woollards. And I was thinking, Ruth and Marvin, one day there's going to be a great getting up day for you out of these caskets, out of this grave site, either to rise to meet the Lord in the air in the rapture or at the final resurrection. But nevertheless, they're already with him. For 2,000 years, Christianity has rested completely on this premise that Jesus Christ rose from the dead on that first Sunday morning, Easter. Everything in history has been built on that premise, because if they could have produced the dead body of Jesus, Christianity would have been slain in its infancy. Now, let me tell you, when we talk about the resurrection of Jesus, it's not kind of a random wish hope. It is historical certainty based on the testimony of eyewitnesses who were there. So if you're going to argue that there was, for example, a Napoleon Bonaparte or a Julius Caesar or an Alexander the Great or an Abraham Lincoln, how do we know those men even existed, and certainly what they said and did? The testimony of eyewitnesses who were there. Historically, we call this the historical critical method. It's the same method we use to have the certainty that Christ rose from the dead. The evidence, the testimony of eyewitnesses who saw him alive again. And so they have shared with us, both from Scripture and from their testimony, 8 facts of evidence that we can base our certainty that Christ rose from the dead. And the first is this: the tomb was empty. When they arrived that first Sunday morning, Jesus was gone. The thing you need to realize about the location of the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, which was the new tomb that Joseph, a follower of Jesus, had lent for Jesus' burial, is it was brand new, had not been used before, and it was only about 200 yards from the middle of Jerusalem in the first century. In other words, if they could have produced the cold, dead, blue, stiff cadaver of Jesus Christ, walked with it down Main Street, Jerusalem, Christianity would have been killed in its infancy. But not only did they not produce the body of Jesus, even his enemies never produced his dead body. And they would have had a motivation to show his dead body, thus declaring that the founder of our faith didn't rise from the dead as the prophets predicted, indeed, as he himself predicted. But they never produced his dead body, and that is absolute eloquent testimony that he was alive. There's a second factor that you need to know. This evidence of the Roman seal was broken. After Jesus died on the cross, the Jewish authorities and the Roman authorities conspired together to say, how can we bury him in a way that will preclude that his disciples don't sneak in and kind of perform a stealth removal of the body and then fabricate a story that he rose from the dead? And so what they did is they assigned an elite Roman military guard unit, and on the stone that sealed the tomb, they put the Roman seal of authority, that anybody who transgressed there, anybody who violated the sovereignty of this seal of the might and power of the Roman Empire, they'd be in grave legal troubles, notwithstanding their own life. The Roman seal was broken, and that elite Roman military guard unit forsook their duty. Third thing we need to know is that the large stone was removed. Now, when we think of an American gravesite, we think of a place like I'm standing right here. We think of, lawns We think of gravestones either laid flush in the grass, or we think of a headstone. That's not how it was in the New Testament. In the New Testament, it was a cave. And every family for generations would share a cave to bury their loved ones. It would be cut into limestone cliffs or limestone little hills. You would enter in, there would be a central weeping chamber, and then emanating out from the central weeping chamber would be these little fingers where the caves would continue. And that's where they'd lay the dead bodies, wrapped in cloths, and then with all kinds of burial spices. Okay? That's the setting. And then over the entrance to the tomb, a large stone was removed. And I'm talking mega rock, probably somewhere between 1 to 2 tons, so 2 to 4,000 pounds. And that would seal the tomb entrance from wild animals disturbing the corpses, etc., etc. On Sunday morning, when they arrived at the tomb, that large stone was removed. Now, watch this. They never produced the body of Jesus Christ. The Roman seal of the might and power of Rome was violated. It was broken. The large stone was removed while there was an elite Roman military guard unit present guarding the burial tomb of Jesus Christ. The disciples stole the body? A fraud? A massive historical cover-up? I don't think so. I mean, this stone was large and circular. It would take usually a couple men with a major lever system to kind of roll it out of the way in the trough in front of the cave entrance. That large stone, the way it reads in the Greek, was blown away from the entrance to the cave. There's a fourth factor that we need to know, and it's that the Roman guard went AWOL. One of the very first things that they did, the Jewish authorities, the Roman authorities, after Jesus died on the cross, is they assigned an elite Roman military guard unit to guard that tomb to make certain the disciples could not sneak in and steal his body. That Roman guard went absent without leave. That's what AWOL means. Now, we need to understand that according to Roman military rules and law, if you forsook guard duty, you fell asleep, for example, it was a capital offense. You could die for that. I could stay awake a long time if I knew that if I fell asleep on duty, I would suffer penalty of death. Moreover, know this. As soon as the guards discovered the body of Jesus was gone, the Roman seal had been broken, the stone had been removed, that they had violated their duty, gone AWOL, they ran to the authorities and told them, the Jewish religious leadership and the Roman leadership, and said, the body's gone. They gave them money. They bribed the Roman guard to lie to say that his disciples had come and stolen the body of Jesus of Nazareth. So now we see a massive cover-up happening behind the scenes already. But we're not done yet. There's a fifth factor, and it's this.